Hi guys, this is Jiggy, a portrait and wedding photographer from the Philippines, and welcome to the channel. So in this video, I want to discuss with you guys my final but yet the most important part of my entire photography process. This is my file management and archiving system. I've actually gotten a lot of questions about this, from what cards I use to the hard drives I use for backing up, my entire system of how I keep my files secure. This is actually very essential to wedding photographers, the field that I am in, because we are actually holding on to the memories of all our clients. But of course, this also applies to a lot of other photographers who just want to put in place a proper archiving system. So if you guys are interested in this, please do watch on. To begin with, I want to put it out there that my entire archiving system is based on reliability and speed, in that order. So it has to be more reliable first, then speed comes in next. It's always a bonus if you have both speed and reliability, which I will get to later. So I start off by using SD cards that are both reliable and fast. And that's why I carry around 9 SD cards for every wedding. And the brand that I use are the SanDisk Extreme Pros. I have a bunch of different ones though. Some are UHS 2 and some are UHS 1. Why is that? Because UHS 2 cards are a bit expensive. So some of my other photographers will just probably use the UHS 1. But if I can have the opportunity to convert everything to UHS 2, I would. I carry around 9 cards because we are actually 3 photographers that are shooting the wedding. And here in the Philippines, it is a common practice for us to have what we call the on-the-day photo slideshow. So while we are actually shooting, we constantly give our cards to our editor for storing in a computer already so that he can start choosing and do some minor edits in preparation for that photo slideshow that will be shown in the reception. That's why these UHS2 cards are so essential, because the moment we give it to our editor, he needs to be able to transfer it fast to the computer and give that card back. So these 9 cards are assigned to 3 cameras, 3 cards specifically just for one camera, and another set for another camera, and so on and so forth. Now, we also need fast SD card readers. So we use an Apple MacBook Pro with a USB-C. That's why we use this UHS2 SanDisk card reader that's USB-C so that we can maximize the speed of these cards. So next, so everything's done. So in the end of the wedding, all these cards are supposed to be backed up already in that computer that we used on the day. That's why, again, it's essential that these cards are fast. That's why if I could really just change everything to UHS2, I would, so that we don't take too much time transferring files after the wedding is over. Because can you just imagine, after a whole day of shooting, you still have to wait for you to be able to transfer all the cards just to make sure that they are already safe there in that computer. So which brings me now to this particular product that I am so in love with, that I'm so happy came out. This is a SanDisk Extreme Pro SSD. But this is no ordinary SSD. The fact that it is water resistant and shockproof and weatherproof is already a sign on how reliable this drive can be. Plus, this particular SanDisk Extreme Pro SSD is a 1050 megabyte per second version. Basically, it is 2 times faster than standard SSDs. It has the latest USB 3.1 Gen 2, Type-C to Type-C cable, and a Type-C to Type-A cable together with it, and it also is cross-compatible with PCs and Macs. So this one became the backbone of our entire archiving system. So why is that important? In the end of the wedding day, all our files are already in our computer. We immediately back it up to this particular drive, or drives such as this. Just to give you an idea on how fast this thing is, we shoot in RAW plus JPEG, so every wedding is about 300 gigabytes on our Sony A7R Mark IIIs and Mark IV. It takes about 7 to 8 minutes to transfer 300 gigabytes to this hard drive. So the moment that it's backed up to this one, we delete all our files from that computer that we bring on location. That's why it's essential for us not to erase any of the files from these SD cards, because once we erase the files from our main computer, this one becomes your main files, no longer a backup, and these SD cards are your backup. So when we get back to the studio, we actually work from this SSD already. But since this SSD is running at 1050 on USB-C, it is actually faster than most of our internal hard drives in the studio, because we run a bunch of iMacs, which we replace our internal hard drives to standard SSDs, which only run at 550 megabytes per second. This one again runs at 1050, so it's faster for us to run it from here. So what do I do now before I back up the files that are in this drive? Basically, we do renaming, and then I put it in specific folders like details, bride preps, groom preps, depending on how you want to sort your images. After which, as I said earlier, we shoot RAW plus JPEG. So now the JPEG files I put in one folder similar to that of the RAW files, or organized the way the RAW files are, and I call that my card dump. The moment we've reorganized and renamed all the files and put it in specific folders, that's when I bring out my USB box. Now inside this USB box is another SanDisk USB. This is a USB 3 Ultra. Now you guys might be wondering why I don't use those USBs that have my branding on it, because that's proper marketing. Because as I said earlier, it is essential for me that all my files are reliable, or all the drives that I'm using are reliable, and that is also applicable to the files that I give to my clients. So I usually use a 128 gig USB 3. At least I know that this drive will be reliable and it will not fail my client. So this one can actually be a good archive by itself. So the moment the card dump is done, I transfer it here already. I put it away, put a label on whose wedding it was, and just put it aside first. From there, I have now 2 WD portable drives on hand all the time. One is our archive drive for the year. I will actually put in a copy of the card dump here also, meaning all the JPEG files, literally all the JPEG files will be put in this one. And this particular drive, I will have a mirror copy of what's inside this SSD. So this one becomes my main backup. So in this drive, this is where we do our choosing also. So once I've done my choosing, this is where I also edit all the files. After I've done all the initial color correction, I save it in this drive again, then I hand it over to my editor. So my editor now has an option on whether or not he wants to transfer all the files to his computer or run it from this drive. More often than not though, I ask him to transfer it to his computer so that I can continue working on other files that are here. That's why it's essential, again, that these things are blazingly fast, because we don't want to waste too much time transferring files to and from the drive, which will normally take hours. So once everything is done, my editor again gives it back to me for final checking. The moment I am happy with it, that's the only time I create my flattened PSD files, my high-resolution JPEGs, and JPEGs that are optimized for web upload. So I organize that now in a processed folder. So once that processed folder is done, I bring out my archive drive again, and this is where I save that process folder in the folder where I put the card dump earlier. Then I bring out the USB and do the same thing. So now this one is going to be ready to be sent to the client. And last but not the least, I will actually save everything, the card dump and the process files, to our RAID server, because we also have a RAID server here in the studio which serves as our long-term backup. It's a WDEX4. And once that is done, that is the only time we will reformat these SD cards. Well, actually, if we do have some back-to-back weddings that we need SD cards, that's why we keep 2, because if we have back-to-back weddings, this is the cards that we will be using, because we won't touch this because it hasn't been backed up. So that's basically it. So how do I do it? From the card, it goes to the computer. From the computer, it goes to this SSD. From the SSD, once we get to the studio, it's renamed, it's organized into folders, then it's put into a backup drive, and then the JPEGs are put in an archive drive and saved in the USB for the clients. Then from there, all the editing and all the culling, the editing, and all final revisions will be done in this SSD. The moment that's done, it's finally put again in the archive drive as a processed files, but not overwriting the card dump. Same here, it's put in this USB. Then finally, we can save it in the RAID system, and that's the only time we delete the backed up RAW files. I know it's a bit much with all these redundant copies, but for me, the cost of hard drives and the cost of data storage is nothing compared to what you have to pay financially and emotionally if something happens to these treasured files of your client. That's why I've always invested in branded hard drives and branded SD cards. As you can see, I'm very loyal to SanDisk and Western Digital because for me, they're very reliable, they've never failed me, and they have very good customer service here in the Philippines. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and if you did, please do subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to see more of my images, feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's at Jiggy Alejandrino. Okay, till the next video.